Welcome everyone to North Bennett Street School. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming this morning. This is a panel around the locksmithing and security technology industry. We conveniently have a locksmithing program here, which is no coincidence. I appreciate everyone here who's with us in person. We're also live streaming to a group that is participating online, and then we're recording as well, so that we could share this information later. Again, my name is Rob O'Dwyer. I'm Director of Admissions for the 9 accredited career training programs here at North Bennett Street School. And I want to introduce my colleague, Eddy Dacius, who is the head of the locksmithing program and a graduate.
All right, thank you guys for coming, and I'm very happy because this idea of being in work for some time, and I appreciate Rob. He took it on his belt and to make it happen. And I would like to thank Sarah, our president, and then Claire, and then the whole NBSS team. And so the idea of this discussion is to change the narrative of this industry, where as a locksmith, we requested to do so much, then install a lock, where we involve in security, safety, and then sometimes be a consultant on door solutions. So we appreciate all the donation we received this year from Pasek, from Ilko, from Asa Abloy, who donate some product to our program. And we would like to thank our panelists from Jeff, Schwartz, from SECLOCK, Dave, from
Pasek
Direct, from Ted, from Jonathan, and from DJ, who's here for us and to answer your question and to start this discussion. Thank you all.
Cool. So we'll be here for about 45 minutes or so. I've got a number of questions. You can see them in front of you. I'm also happy to just be conversational and go off what this is. These are just prompts. Whenever we conclude the panel, we're going to go and visit the locksmithing department. The other thing that I'll add is on Monday, June 3rd, we'll be having 2 more information sessions for this program that I'll be hosting, mostly around admissions, financial aid, scholarship, and outcomes. It's 8:30 for in-person, and it's noon for a virtual info session. So if anybody here is so inspired and you want to share that with people, I would be grateful. So let's get started. I'd like to start with Ted and just come down the line. Ted, would you tell us what it is you do and how you got into the industry?
Sure. So my name's Ted Brassard. I'm the key systems manager at Pasek Security, and I manage the mechanical key system side of the business. So really nothing to do with electronics. It's a key system development. There's a lot of office towers downtown here that have our systems in them, top to bottom. It's a very complicated product, actually. So we have a team that does the hands-on nuts and bolts stuff, and we have people that do the mathematical arrangements of the key systems for mechanical keys and locks. A grand master for a building, maybe a floor master, maybe a department master, and then individual keys under those masters. And everything works together in a system that enables the facilities people, as I'm sure you're aware. The beauty of a good key system is you carry one key that opens everything if you run the building. You carry a key that opens your area if you run a department, and you have a key to your office. It all works together, and that's what our department does, essentially. It's not brain surgery, but it's everywhere.
It's complicated.
It exists everywhere. Every building has a mechanical key system in it.
Thank you, Ted.
As far as how I got there, 1981 is when I started at Pasek, and I was a young father that needed a job, and Lou hired me. the former owner of Pasek Security. And I was hired to, believe it or not, rebuild door closers. Disassemble them, clean the components, reassemble them with all the gaskets and everything that enabled oil to stay in them. And we resold them as used items. And that's what they hired me to do, so. Then immediately I became the key systems manager. About 25 years later. That's the long and short.
Thank you. Jeff, what about yourself?
Okay, I'm Jeff Schwartz. My company is SECLOCK. I'm one of the owners with my brothers. I started out as a locksmith, working with my dad at a locksmith business, and going on the road and doing everything from door closers. We didn't break them down like they did. We would get them from him.
Yep.
And repairing, closers, access control. We did everything. Back then, basically access control was in its infancy. People didn't really know about a lot of burglar alarm companies were doing the access control. Now there's a security company dedicated to it. And so we decided that we did a little wholesaling because we were in Brookline, which is right over here. And there was a lot of real estate, a lot of schools change hands during, the fall season. So there's a lot of apartments swapping. And so we had a built-in business from the real estate sector. And so we started to go into a little bit of wholesale. And then we said, something, let's dabble and really go into it. So we basically took a handful of lines, and like Von Duper and Schleg, LCN, Sargent, and we started wholesale stocking everything these manufacturers make. And what we do that's different is that we had people that actually did it in the field. So our people, when we got into the space, we were much better than our competition, is because our people actually knew what the stuff did. Most of our competitors were just taking an order and going, yeah, an A works with a B. Our people look at an order and basically say, I'm glad you gave me just the stuff. I want you to know none of it's going to work together. And basically give them what they need to put in to make it work. And then, even to this day, there could be a $3 part, and we could save a customer $400 because they're going to send a tech all the way out, and they go, you needed a cover plate to cover the hole that you just pulled something out of, as basic as that. And so that's really kind of where we built our business on. And so we have, we have a bunch of salespeople that are on the phone that we call them TSRs. They stand for technical service representatives. And they basically take the orders from people calling in, in the field, and some customers know it better than we know it. Some have no idea. And some, it's about servicing, they got it in the field, what do I do now? And, that's kind of the day in the life, and it's fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. David, what about yourself?
Access Direct is my company. I started off running a contract hollow metal shop, which is doors and frames, a lot of it's steel, new construction. So you have to do takeoffs, read prints to do that. I enjoyed it because we had a great technician who could build a lot of different things. We did stair pans, we did some structural steel, because there was 2 businesses involved. I did a lot of, you end up doing a lot of work for general contractors, right? That's new construction. And it can be part of the field that you work with, or at least go into. I became a rep, a local rep. So you have a line card that gives a list of factories that you sell for, and you go hang out with Jeff for an afternoon and educate them on some of the products that are available and what they can do, and why somebody would want to buy it. I became a sales manager for an electric strike company. Basically, we changed the industry in how products were designed and installed in that industry. Access Direct is an unusual company. We've done the access control for Citibank, their front vestibules, installing handicap operators, we wholesale handicap operators and access control equipment. We also sell to some of the different factories, Normercava, Legion, ASA. I've done throughout my career jobs that pretty much nobody else wanted to do. One of the things I enjoyed about it was that when I was traveling around the country, I could end up in the Capitol, the World Trade, the Pentagon, looking at scenarios that they're having issues with and coming up with solutions. Sounds like it would make you a lot of money, but it really doesn't. But it does get you a tour of the building, which is really cool. That's what I've enjoyed. So when you're looking at potential opportunities, there is wholesale, there's contract hardware, there's storefront, which is the aluminum industry. It's a different industry. There's access control. It's a different industry. You know, the building just got built. Then the next day they're saying, okay, we want that door and that door and that door electrified. Now you're changing the lock sets out, you're cutting in strikes or mag locks or electrified panics. And so there's that aspect of it. And there's also something called national locksmith providers. There are companies that will hire locksmith companies to go out there and basically turn a screw, and you're building in 15-minute increments. The difficulty is you have to either set your business up to do that, or you're setting your business up to do projects. It's hard to do both. So there are a few different, I'll say, industries that you can get involved with when you're looking at this, from the locksmith's point of view.
David, thank you. Jonathan, what about you?
I'm a owner operator of a mobile service van, small company. We do commercial, private, commercial, residential, some car keys, installations and repairs. I was at the casino. I got hired pretty much. I'm graduating this program, and also the carpentry program here. I came in on GIO, and I got hired by Wynn to help with the maintenance team over at the casino. Pretty much about maybe a year and a half out of the game into this new career. So I worked there for a few years, and now I'm actually Pasek designed and helped install the key system there at the casino. So yeah, I got to work with Ted pretty closely. So it's great.
Thanks, Jonathan. DJ.
Good morning. My name is DJ Dabenigno. I'm a 2005 graduate of the locksmithing program here in North Bend. I own and operate Dacius Lock. It's a residential, commercial, mobile locksmith business. I'm out of Stonehill, Massachusetts. I'm also the past president of the Massachusetts Locksmith Association for 3 different terms. I'm the vice president of the Yankee Security Convention. And basically my job at Yankee is educating other locksmiths, and we also host and operate the largest trade show for locksmiths in the Northeast. I'm also a certified CPR instructor through the American Heart Association. My business is just that, it's residential and commercial. It's kind of a nice 50-50 blend. And what I like about being in the business is no 2 days are alike. You start your day, you don't know what you're going to run up against, whether you're going to a house and you're rekeying one door for a customer because they may have their purse or pocketbook stolen, or you're going to a larger facility where you're doing 600+ doors, like a brand master key system that the education you learned here at North Bend helps you design that on your own without just computer yourself. So I do owe my entire career, as I'm approaching 40, I've been in this trade for almost 40 years, to the education I received here at North Bend. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And that's my story, and sticking to it.
I think he wins.
That's great. It's not a competition. DJ, thank you very much. And this reminds me also, Yankee Security is so generous to North Bennett Street School. We often have an exhibit table out there every year and get to participate in the classes. The students and faculty go out, and then Yankee also provides a very generous scholarship for students. So I'm grateful for that. Just a reminder, if everyone wants to just turn off the ringers on your cell phone.
I thought I had done that.
Emergency, no problem. I have it in my notes. I should have said at the
I'm
top.
gonna
but
turn
yeah,
my phone off.
I'll get it right next year. Also, DJ, good to know that you know CPR. Hopefully we don't need that today. I'm gonna go, I'll go to Jeff and I'll ask, what's the most rewarding thing to you personally and professionally about being involved in the industry?
Well, I mean, I have two lives. One is when I was in out in the field and putting stuff in. I think that part of it, you know, back then, when you drive by and go, I did that, and I did that. And I remember, and even, it's funny, there's one street in Newton that I remember I did every single house on that street, you know, a course of like 15 years. But so that's kind of the rewarding part when you look at, and then figuring stuff out that, you know, all of a sudden you can't, you know, like, how does this relay work with this? And, you know, all of a sudden it clicks and you make it work. So I think that is, and then on the wholesale side of the business, just seeing, you know, again, it's almost the same thing. It's seeing some of the jobs that we are involved in indirectly. We see our customers are doing, you know, the NFL building in New York or AOL and this, you know, and Columbus Circle or all these jobs that we're totally involved in, but there's just, you know, a piece of it that we're in, and you know, it's fun looking at the drop ships in the office going, gee, let's go on to, do a ton with the UN building through another customer, you know, so it's like, wow, this stuff's going, you know, it's gonna be in the UN tomorrow, you know, so it's very rewarding.
Cool. Thank you. Ted.
I would say, because I'm pretty strictly, I do sales and door hardware, wholesale sales. Some sales to direct end users, but the key systems part of it is we do big systems. We do small systems too, but we do big ones. And I get some satisfaction in the fact that when a customer comes to us and they have the need for it, and they literally can't wrap their head around how will this even happen? And we're able to create the thing for them, package it, sell it to them, install it. And they see the end result, and they literally will, I've had customers say to me, I don't know how you people can even do this. And so it takes a burden off of them. You know, and that's, we do it for a living, I realize, but there's something to be said for the fact that your product you're selling is sort of taking pressure off of your customer. When it's done, and that's one thing off their plate. So I get expressions of gratitude from customers for that a lot. So
It's great, thank you. David, what about you?
Yeah, I've done a lot of reflecting recently about different projects I've worked on, and you know how some of the things I've done have impacted the industry. There are some projects that, you know, I would have liked if they went a little bit better. And but there's sometimes when you walk away and go, wow, you know, this was pretty much a mess when we got here. Yeah, we cleaned it up, and on a larger scale, we say, you know, we're duplicating that in all the different locations around the country. And you know, and I'm sure Jeff will agree on this too, is that there's sometimes, you know, people you're working with, you can impact their lives. In the sense that, you know, for me, one of the things that works for me is MS. So we set up technology in our house 20 years ago to allow her to get around and to communicate with the outside world. You know, she was kind of locked in, and found that, this was something that got her, out. You know, she got to talk to the locksmiths and, at that point, we were a national locksmith provider. We were doing door repairs for TJX, which is Marshall's home goods. And, she knew the locksmiths and, you know, a lot of them were guys, so she knew their wives and, you know, how many kids they had. And, you know, she was so much better at getting them to work with us than I was. You know, I just let her run that part of the company, and she taught me patience. Because, you know, she could only move so fast. And, so everything had to be at her pace. So it was, you know, it was just an opportunity to work with both of us.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Jonathan,
So just to echo a little bit what's already been said, you know, it's rewarding to help with problem solving, troubleshooting. So when your clients hired, they're hiring somebody to help fix the issue, right? You know, having people, it's arbitrary, it's what this was specifically requested. Even then, you know, they want you to help. They have an issue, they need you to help walk them through it, whether it just be like simple door repair, you know, you correct the door of the frame within a system control or any access control. Just walking them through the process, showing them parameters on it, what the problems are, and having competencies.
thank you. DJ, what do you find?
In nearly 20 years in the business, what I've learned is customers are not calling us because they want to, it's because they have to. And for me to be able to walk into either their business or their home, see what the issue is, diagnose it like that, and then come up with the solution even quicker. And then have the bill in hand, as I call it, before they even realize that the door was fixed is kind of rewarding, because you've been doing it so long, it becomes second nature. That you can easily see what the problem was. Maybe you don't know how the problem generated. And what I tell most customers is, I'm not here to try to diagnose why it may have happened. I'm here to fix it. If I can tell you, okay, this got loose just because of normal wear and tear, or this got broken because this piece snapped, just because of age. We're in one of the oldest parts of the country, as we know by the school. So we have a lot of the old skeleton key locks that I still work on. The internal parts just become brittle over time, and they need a little cleaning and tender loving care and replacement parts, which again, from the program, you learn how to remanufacture those parts. Because as I tell the customer, my door is in the shop, I can't go back and these locks made. And I try to add a little bit of humor to it too, because sometimes they are calling you on their worst day. I do a lot of domestic violence calls where they're trying to lock somebody out of the house for whatever reason. And sometimes the customer breaks down and cries, just saying thank you. And that to me is awesome. And I just say, that's what we're here for. That's why we were put on the earth as locksmiths, you know. And essentially, no 2 days are alike, and that's what I like about it. That's also very good. Because I wake up in the morning and say, whose day am I going to make that? And I go home and I
That's great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for talking about that. To add to this, I feel like as I think about this industry, a lot of it is about keeping people safe, and about keeping property safe. And this relationship of, you know, the technician, the person that has these abilities that we've all described, I think it's a really fascinating draw to the industry. Ted, I'm going to go back to you. What are some of the needs and challenges and maybe opportunities that you see in the industry today, and also in the future?
I think finding people is a big thing. You know, finding people like the people that graduate from here are pretty valuable in the industry, obviously. So as far as I know, every company that's doing what we do for a living is looking for people. qualified people that are willing to come in with a learning attitude and not come in with a preconceived attitude. It's hard to find people that are open to maybe coming in the door and not thinking that I've got a pretty good grasp of this already. Because those people they tend to not work out. It's hard to find people that come in with knowledge that say, maybe what I know is great, but I really don't know what these people here are doing. And let's start off with an open slate as far as my preconceived ideas aren't necessarily what's gonna fit. So we've had experiences with people that have come in, they haven't worked out, pretty much for that reason, in my opinion. So there's a need for people, challenges. I think one challenge for us, I think, is customers not realizing mechanical keys aren't going away. You know, it's we have fobs, we have cards, we're all set. Okay, and your power was going out for a week, and what are we doing here?
It's all mechanical underneath, everything else is
it
a
is.
control system.
The bottom of it, so that's not a huge challenge for me personally, but I think for selling quality, high security products, customers sometimes don't think they need it. So the reality is, don't make that decision so quickly. So that's a challenge as far as getting it out there to people. So.
Cool, thank you. Jeff,
I'll echo the same thing. It's people, it's the same thing. And the challenges are, there is a brain drain. In a lot of these institutions, they had a lot of maintenance people that had a lot of respect for the hardware that are installing the good stuff. And what's happening is that sometimes that's not in their budget anymore. It goes under IT or it goes under a different department. And you know, you can see a $10 Schlag lock at Home Depot and a $1,000 Schlag lock that's commercial hardware. And as far as they're concerned, they have it's the same thing. So what happens is explaining that, you know, in some institutions, you know, the difference in quality, you know, one's got 80 million cycles, and the other one has 6, you know, and they're you know, they equate it the same because it looks alike. And so, you know, we're seeing a brain drain in companies like Pasek of the world, and then you're also seeing a brain drain in the institutions, the college level, where, you know, where they had a sophisticated staff. They joined, you know, when they were 20 years old, and they stayed until they were 70. You know, the problem is, I don't think we have that going forward. You know, we have a lot of people staying in these positions long, which don't really get them entrenched in what they're doing. You know, when you look at some of the schools and some of the institutions, you know, some of the maintenance departments know hardware better than the people selling the hardware, you know, because they deal with it, they're responsible for it, and they you know, they only will accept this on this campus and that on that campus and so forth. But if they're even, you know, they're either retiring out or they don't have that decision power. So that's the challenge.
and Jeff, at our last advisors meeting for the locksmiths, one of the things that you had said was the average age of locksmiths now, which I think is 51, something, it's around there.
65.
Is it?
65.
Yeah, it's the average. And DJ can attest to that. It's higher.
Probably it's higher.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
And I'm trapped in a 29-year-old body.
It's obvious.
Yeah, I agree with that because when I started, I was the youngest guy traveling around the country as a sales manager. And the guys that worked for me were all Vietnam vets. And so it's caused these voids in the industry. And, you know, we're doing a lot of talking about locksmithing, but you have to look at the manufacturers themselves too, Dormicala, and Legion, and Hager, and some of the smaller ones. You know, what kind of force do they have? So it's not just the locksmiths, but the other part of the locksmithing end is there aren't the people in place to take over the locksmith shops, right? So you're having somebody whose mentality in the past is to basically pay minimum as they can to get somebody inexperienced and then to bring him into training, right? And that kind of has to change. So when you're going out there and presenting yourself, and you have to think of where do you want to be, right? Do you want to be a locksmith? Do you want to be something in this industry? Well, what is that? And do you want to take over the shop at some point? If you do, then you should probably make that known from the get-go, right? Because if I'm coming in saying, look, I'm gonna learn this, right? And there's a lot I don't know yet. But I will take the steps that it's gonna take to take control. And that means, I'll learn accounting, I'll learn sales and marketing. I'll learn how to run this company. And so, this is going to be a stepping stone is, first get hired and then, we'll move down that. But that's the way I would approach this, is letting them know where you want to be, if that's what your goal is. But also look at the other opportunities, talk to myself or Jeff or some of these other guys about the factories and what's going on there, because there are opportunities in that arena also.
Thanks, David. John?
As far as the challenges that I've seen in the industry and the needs today, it's just staffing, identifying folks at the other end of the age scale to be motivated to want to show up and do this work. It can be hard if you do the emergency services. It's a lot of long nights sometimes. It just I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I don't know how to talk to like a 20-year-old. I just turned 40. If it was if I was in the military, there's like a very clear way to like motivate somebody to eventually get the point. That something needs to get done, but you can't do that, right? I mean, you could, but you would get tired of the next job. But I think you could do the once, just you get back, take care of the so. I think it's partly that on a personal level, but also I don't know what motivates young adults right now. So I think figuring that out and then trying to figure out how to leverage whatever you need to motivate them. Hey, we will give you this if you come and work in this industry. That's it. So that's.
Thank you. I do see a lot of articles about younger generations now really being interested in the trades, and there's Mike Rowe Works is really putting a lot of effort to this. I think in some way there's a lot of mixed information that's out there about how and why, but as everyone has pointed out here, and the reason that we're having this panel is that there's a real need in the industry. So how do we get the word out to those people? In a way, it's regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of so many different things, who wants to help to keep people and property protected, and who likes fixing things, who likes solving problems. I think the combination of all those things seems like in some way a way to move forward. DJ.
So again, echoing what everyone else has said, plus my involvement with Mass Locksmiths Association, we have about 150 members. Our median age is 61. There are only 20 of us in the association under the age of 25. So that kind of shows us where the industry is heading. We really need a younger generation to help come in, because in the next 5 years, the greater majority of the older crowd will be retired. And what happens then? Do they just close down shop? Do they try to sell to one of us younger guys? And then if we don't have more help coming in, are we gonna be too inundated with work? Because I can't speak for John, but I know I'm at a comfortable service level right now. Could I have another person on the road helping? Sure. But if I then start acquiring other locksmith businesses because they're retiring, then you get overwhelmed. The work is there, it helps. And that's what's kind of unique about the trade is there's so many different avenues you can go. You can go into institution, which now I find both you have the locksmith / carpenter. Some facilities do have just locksmiths, but a lot that I talk to is for friend that works in Children's Hospital, he's their locksmith / carpenter. So it's kind of good, like John did, to know both ends of both industries. But I think that's kind of the biggest challenge is the work is there, the work is not going, right? Like it's brought up, mechanical keys are not going. It is going more access control, but as I said, if you lose power and there's no backup, you're not getting it. I've been called out to many calls where we can't get into our building because we don't have keys. Why not? Because they were relying on technology. And that's definitely a challenge too, that I see everybody out in the world is pushing it more towards technology because it's convenient. And I get it, but at the end of the day, I don't sell any electronic piece of hardware that I'm a branch. Because I say batteries can fail, electronics can fail, you never know. Murphy's Law is everything can break and it will. And I'm a front load with that. But I think that's the biggest thing is how do you attract more younger people? And I know it's one of the other questions, but I just say, just make the jump for it. Like I was working loss prevention at Kohl's when I was 19. I saw an ad for North Bank Street School to become a locksmith. I said, sure. I don't like chasing shoplifters anymore. Like it's getting boring and dangerous, like all at the same time. And I enrolled a year later and I've never looked back. So it's just, I got in at a very young age. I know there's a big spectrum. I know there's a few younger guys in the program now. And you know, my hat's off to them and to the older crowd join us too, because it's never a bad time to be a locksmith. Like, it's a trade that's been around for forever and ever and ever. It's not going away. Technology has gotten better, but again, like it's been said, mechanical is not good. So.
All right, well, thanks for the tagline too, DJ.
And also, life safety is a big part of this business too.
Yes.
I mean, we're only talking about security and prevention. There's also life safety, exit devices and fire safety. That's a big area and a lucrative area too. So, you know.
You almost become the bad guy when the customer says, well, I want it done this way. I say, but life safety code comes first, security comes second. And if you want it done that way, you're gonna either not do it or hire someone else, because I'm not gonna put my stamp of approval if something could get hurt.
Great point. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Eddie, over to you.
All right, so the question I have, how do we change the narrative? And would be what advice would you give somebody in high school or just graduating now to join this industry? I know all of us know how lucrative is the industry. So how can we tell them about the industry? So that would be my question for Ted and everybody else.
I would say, kind of repeating what DJ said in a way that there are a lot of avenues in this business. You know, institutional, as he mentioned, whether that's hospitals, universities, companies. You know, large corporations have engineering departments that have a locksmith on duty. It seems to have gone from everybody had one to we don't have that anymore. We're going to bring this service company in to do it. Now, sort of cycling back a little bit to it's worth our while to have somebody on staff that does this. So there's that aspect of it. You know, working for a large institution as their locksmith or one of their locksmiths, where you do everything. Basically, you, like as Jeff mentioned, exit devices, electronic access stuff, key systems, basic mechanical key and lock installations and repairs. And takes a lot of knowledge to do that, you know, a lot of training. But then you have a place like Pasek where you're working as an installer for a company that does service installations in commercial buildings. And we also have the realm of the key systems department where you're in-house and you're literally cutting keys and combinating cylinders, which isn't for everybody. But the people that like to do it, love to do it. You know, it's a it's a niche thing, and we're probably, I'm guessing the biggest operation in this area that does that. A lot of companies, that sell locks, have factory systems installed, it's not the manufacturer location. Pasek does a lot of our own custom key system design for large buildings, which is it's unusual. But, you know, it's a good direction to go in if you want to do this for a trade. And then there's, the stuff that John does and the DJ does, self-employed mobile locksmith work with a shop maybe. I mean, it's a huge spectrum of things you can do, and do it right. You know, I don't think anyone's gonna become a millionaire at it, but you're gonna make a living at it, a good living. And you don't need to have a giant college debt to do it. This is a good way to look at it. So.
All great points, thank you. And we're seeing a rise in institutions coming to us to the point about right service, and it's basically institutions are crunching their budget, seeing what they're paying for service and saying, what if we were to train somebody? So I want to say we've had at least 3 or 4 places that have approached.
I think it's almost kind of a lesson learned kind of a thing, where they cut the locksmith position. Because we can have a service company come in, we're not paying the insurance, we're not doing this and that. Then they see the bill for that when time comes to pay it. Like, well, we might have thought too quickly about this. And so I've seen it happen. We've lost a Pasek technician to a college relatively recently. So we didn't think we were gonna see that coming. That happened.
I think it. What about you, David?
I think, listen, there's plenty of opportunities in this business. I mean, you know, there's lanes, so there's, you know, there's life safety, there's access control, you know, and then my recommendation, I guess, at the end of the day is really, you know, there's a lot to do. There's a whole potpourri of things, but to really, you know, pick a lane and try to be the best at it. And you know, I've seen people that, you know, there's a guy in the South Shore that would go all over the world opening safes. Now, I know that's probably, you know, that's way out there. Yeah, Bill, the lock. I mean, he made tools and they fly into Europe to open up. You know, that's great. You know, it's fun for him. But I'm saying this, you know, that's the extreme. But I mean, this whole multi-housing now is such a new phenomenon. Every new building now that's being built that's residential has card access with keys. You know, so there's a whole lane that's opening up that nobody really owns at this point. You know, so there's a lot of things that, you know, you know, if you get involved in this stuff, there's so many opportunities. And to your point about the trades, I think, you know, you got to look at it right. Nobody wants the college debt. And these trades are actually paying pretty well, and the security, and, you know, I know, and again, looking at things, you know, and I look at it from a distance, like I know my electrician, you know, meanwhile, he's been my electrician for whatever 30 years, and he owns about 6 buildings because he does work for this customer, and all of a sudden they go, oh, I'm getting old, I don't want to manage this, and he ends up with that problem. So, you know, here's a guy out of the trades, is a wealthy man, with property and so forth, because that fed him into somewhere else, and he's handy enough to do the work to maintain it, so, you know, it fell in love. And I know many people in these industries that cross over into, you know, other things to develop income later in life and so forth. So these are, you know, things to look at long term. So, but you know, it's a great industry. You know, it's done me well, and I think that and there's a ton of opportunity. Just, you know, the labor constraints is really one of the only things that's holding it back.
Good, thank you. Good.
I would say there's a couple times that I've pinned a cord and realized that wasn't my part of the business. And, you know, complete respect for you on that, because I can be very handy, but you have to know what you're comfortable with, what you enjoy doing. And there are a lot of opportunities that will fit your needs. If you want to break your day up on doing different sites, you know, little repairs here and there, a little selling your time like a lawyer, you know, that's part of this industry. If you want to do whole projects where, you know, you're installing door after door after door, new construction, you know, that's part of this industry. You know, there's a lot of different aspects of this industry, and you just have to find out what you feel is your niche.
So for anyone thinking of joining the industry as a locksmith on the ground, like right out of school, I would say, you know, never be, we gotta approach everything as never the master, always a student. Keep it open mind as far as learning. Maybe, you know, maybe if you cut in there or you pick locks for like a year, because it was a hobby in high school, just put that aside, like, right? And you know, try to approach the trade and learn as much as you can on the other aspects of it. And really, again, the limit is the sky as far as like where you can take your studies and expertise. And there are a ton of resources out there outside of even dentistry school. DJ mentions president of the Yankee Security Convention. That's a great resource. They have a ton of classes. Another couple of places like Safe and Vault Technicians Association of America and Associated Locksmiths Association of America. They'll have classes throughout the year which you can attend and just continue learning. Yeah, just another aside, you know, try to figure out the problems or get in the mindset of pay them before I bust out my phone and go on YouTube and call somebody for an audible. And you know, try to sit there and actually mechanically figure it out. It's just another thing about this. That helped me a lot when I started out. You know, just sitting there and just letting my brain go through.
I think growing up for me was playing with Legos, Connects, anything building, problem solving. I used to take apart a lot of stuff at home and put it back together. They were as big as like the refrigerator, but like the TV remote, the DVD player, the VCR, and get it back to working. Because a lot of what you're doing out in the field is problem solving. If you've got a knack for working with your hands, don't mind getting dirty, being a locksmith is something to do. And I'm not saying that it's the easiest trade out there, but it's not difficult to learn, and a lot of it's repetitive. And like John just said, you never stop learning. I've been doing this nearly 20 years. I still see stuff weekly that I've never seen before. And what I'm going to use is my past knowledge of working with other items of similar design to see how I'm going to put this back together before I reach for my phone, call my phone friend. Or I jump on YouTube or one of the social media pages on Facebook where there's locksmiths all throughout the world that provide their expertise as well. Because a lot of times I will work with a product regularly and then a friend will say, hey, do you know how this goes back together? And I said, yeah, that goes back together. Or vice versa. And it's just repetitiveness. I got made fun of this past week when we were down at Foxwoods and I was checking out the hardware. And then something wasn't working right, and I pointed out something works here. I'm like, if that gets any looser, something might get hurt. They look at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, just saying. Even going into the corner store, you know, to buy a soda, the door closers slam. I'll hand out my card and say, hey, I'm a locksmith, just so you know, if I'm not already there. Yeah, it's locksmith. I can take care of that for you either now or later. Because at the end of the day, it does come down to also life safety, because we're there to keep people safe. Because who's ever had to have a door hit you in the butt on the way out, or a lock is just too difficult. And you just keep on learning. I know a lot of guys through the Mass Locksmith Association that they get older in age and they'll be working on Tuesday and unfortunately pass away on Wednesday. And it's not because there's not good money in the trade, because there is, but I didn't become a locksmith to be a millionaire. I became a locksmith because I love what I do. I don't work with locks and helping people, but it's so much fun and they just keep on working. There are a lot of guys who will retire, like I mentioned earlier, in probably the next few years. But if I would recommend this trade to anyone who is mechanically inclined, who likes to stand on their own 2 feet, maybe not ask for help right away and try to problem solve on their own. But there is no shame in asking for help, because that means you're learning, like John said. You're always a student. I would probably still see new stuff until the day that I stop doing a lot of things. So
I just want to add one more thing. It's a small industry. So, mind your P's and Q's, especially if you actually don't go in and embarrass yourself. Because they're going to be surprised you there. Leads you to the same faces.
It is a social club, as we like to call it, at the Locksmith Association. It is the same bunch of us getting together monthly for our meetings where we do technical sessions, trainings. But we all know each other. And we'll often joke because you'll have that one customer that will call me and call him and call him and call him for a quote to see which price is better. Or three of us will be out at TGI Fridays on Friday night having dinner, and I'll get the first lockout call, and then they'll call the next guy, then the next guy. And we typically all our price right on dollar, just so, like, we're all eating it, like, we're all friends. And that's one of the big things I say is being presidents in this room, we're all family. Out there, we're competition, but in here, we can open a beer and share a good war story, as we call it. And it is very tight knit. So that's why you do need to kind of keep it professional, even if it's on the first floor.
If I can add to that, I feel like these concepts of life safety, security, what I can see is that it attracts people that have those qualities, that share those values, and I think that carries through. So I take your advice absolutely. I also feel like there's kind of an attraction to that, as I've heard from all of you in some way, that I think is another one of those components.
And to add too, so as a school, $25,000 to become a locksmith, and the investment is higher, meaning so our program is 7:30 to 12:30, and you can work in the afternoon or second shift. And like if you're talking about investment, let's say you invest $30,000, you can recoup that within a year, because these guys might hire you for at least like $25 an hour, or if you get an institutional locksmith job, which is higher. And I feel like as a school, this is the best investment you can get for yourself. And this is a good platform too. As a locksmith, and I think David said it, from being a locksmith, he got to tour the Pentagon. So that's a good platform for you guys to, same for me, when I study here, I went to Wentworth, I become project manager. Now I have my own company and I'm the head of the locksmith department. But that was a decision I made to become a locksmith first. So just wanted to add that as a great opportunity for you guys to advance your career and then get a good life. And you can be a millionaire too, never know. If you're good sales, I think some guys that are making great money, but I think we need to change the narrative at the end of the day. So that's my go-to. So I'll ask Rob if you want to ask the next question, and you can go.
Yeah, and I want to just add to what Eddy said. It's great to hear your story. In mentioning the 25K more or less for tuition here, I have to add that being an accredited institution, people can apply for financial aid through FAFSA, and our accreditation allows people who qualify for financial aid to potentially qualify for scholarship through FAFSA. The school has over $1 million in mostly need-based scholarship. So that institutional scholarship, we take a look at the FAFSA application and make an assessment of how we could support you. 75% of the students here have some kind of financial aid. And that's the average is around a third or so gets covered by both FAFSA and that. International students can also apply for financial aid from the institution. Jonathan mentioned that he used veterans benefits to come here. You can use the full range of veterans benefits to attend North Bennett Street School as a veteran or as a dependent. And then there's third-party scholarships like the Micro Scholarship, AmeriCorps, any number of those things. But I appreciate that. And then you're kicking this next question to me?
Yes, yeah, I can ask it if you want. So the question is, what do you wish you knew before you started this career?
earlier in this career.
Yeah,
Talking about this career now, or?
yeah, so
Before I-
earlier,
So, well, when I first came into the business, as I said, hired as a door closer repair person, which was not a pretty job. It was a rubber apron type thing with acid baths and everything. Not what I really wanted to be doing in my life at the time, but as I said, I needed the job. As I progressed out of that pretty quickly, I wish I had known at the time that I moved out of that the key system thing was my niche. You know, so just speaking for myself personally. And because I kind of got involved with everything, road service, I was out helping people on a service truck, doing repairs in commercial buildings and things, and doing all right with that. And in fact, I even about 2 or 3 years after I started at Pasek, I left with a friend who left Pasek as a locksmith to start his own business. I went with him and I worked on the road with him, Randy Oxley, I'm sure you know.
I know, right?
Yeah. And I came back a couple of years later. And again, service work, things like that, and then I finally sort of moved into the key shop part of it. Where a person I'll call my mentor, Doug Borden, worked in there and was very, very well versed in that stuff, the key system development thing, and I found out, well, this is really, I enjoy doing this. You know, and things flowed from there, and I've loved doing what I do for a living for the last 30 years. So, but the first 5 years of it, not so much. I was in the business though. I got the foothold in there, and I wound up with it, and I lasted. Let's put it that way. So I wish I had found the right niche at the time I started there. That's one thing I wish I had done. No regrets though.
I think it's a.
But I knew earlier in my career, I don't, you know. I think more specializing in picking a lane, like I said earlier, in owning something, you know. I feel like I have a great understanding of a lot of things, but not a deep dive. So I wish, you know, sometimes, you know, I think it could have been helpful, you know, in my earlier days anyway.
Thank you.
When I first started, the 80s were kind of crazy. And there was a guy who turned to me and said, I didn't ask you how much it cost, I asked you how fast I could get it. I was like, ooh, I can charge for grandma. And the finishes back then, literally, he was asking for a piece that was gold plated. And architects back then wanted to top the other ones. They wanted to give a look that nobody else had. There were all these really funky finishes. Right? Now it's what color chrome do you want? And for some reason they like glass a lot. I'm not a really big fan of trying to put door hardware on glass doors. You know, they give you an all glass door and then they want you to electrify it. And put a handicap operator on it. It's like, on what? On the glass, you know? I'm like, come on, give me something. And I didn't realize that the small manufacturers would sell their business so fast. So my business plan was to market people that weren't Osabloy or English Already, take the small manufacturers and give them a market, right? So they could take some of their marketing dollars and we could work together. There was only one manufacturer that really understood that, a guy in Connecticut. And the rest of them, as soon as I got their sales up a little bit, they sold their company. So yeah, I made a few mistakes to pay for them. But you know, I mean, during the lockdown, I worked with a company on designing a box to drop the masks off, right? So there'd be access control on the box. And so when you dropped your mask off, we'd have the mask barcoded and we'd hit it with ozone, which would kill all bacteria, and we'd put it back in the bag and you'd get your mask back, right? And it was a HEPA filter underneath, and you know, the whole process worked. We just couldn't get it through the government. we just kept moving and goalpost. But, you know, I wish I could do the narrow lane thing. It just never, I could never, you know, really get a. Sometimes I had to run on stuff that went well, and that's, you know, you gotta reinvent the wheel sometimes.
Right, I have a couple of things, but, so. If I, a couple of things I wish I would have been better about when I started out was PPE, maybe a little bit wrong here. No one's gonna tell you that the right move is to put your eye pro on, cover your ears, make sure that you're safe, if you work with power tools, and protect like yourself with proper clothing and safety equipment. If that's like a hard hat or job site or knee pads, don't be afraid of looking like a door. Just put the stuff on, do your job. Okay, that's gonna pay off in the long term. I worked for a guy. Every time he took a knee to pick something up, it sounded like a grenade. For those of you who don't know, it's like a big fire. Don't be that guy. That's, you know, you'll see older populations in the trades. Everybody's had surgeries. You know, it's hard work. It's physically taxing. Just mitigate as much as
I don't see any old carpet installers.
You know, get good at building processes to make yourself more efficient. You know, an 8-hour day isn't really 8 hours. It's more like 6, maybe 5, right, to do work. So anything you can do to make your processes more efficient, whether that be building jigs and patterns, if they're holding doors, or cutting certain preps, or buying those, you know, the big fan of jigs. But that also, you know, coming off the job site, it also means, you know, your estimate process, your bookkeeping if you work for yourself. Just try to be efficient with your time and be disciplined with it. And I wish I could do that. Because it's a small window of an actually doing work. Okay, especially if you're on the service, so, like, the sign traffic as well, if there are other trades in the way. And the last one is, you know, take photos as you go. You can't remember anything, right? So like if you look at my phone, my work phone, it's all just drill points. Oh, this was cool. Look at this, you know what I mean? Like I'll put it safe and the way to keep back. But rotate, just take time to do that. So you have those notes to reference back to. If you have a notebook, you know, old school too, that's also good. You know, just write things down. Let's read this up today. Go to this again. You may not look at it for a while, but you'll go back to it eventually. But oh, yeah, you know, that's right. So, and it might save you. Didn't save you along.
So kind of piggyback on what John said, something I wish I knew first out of the gate was it's okay to make mistakes as long as you know that you get hurt and you learn from it. A mistake I made very early in the trade as I was first on the road is I was putting a lock back on a glass door and I didn't look at those screws. One ended up being a wood screw, which you're never supposed to use on a glass door. I screwed it in, all I heard the glass shattered. So that was a $500 mistake. To this day, I have not made it again. As long as what you're doing, nobody gets hurt because you are putting locks on doors. Hardware can fail, so it's up to you as a professional to make sure you're installing and supplying good quality hardware that's going to give the best operation chance for success. If you put on something cheap, you find out then it's probably going to break. And somebody could get stuck in or out because the lock failed. Just that it's normal wear and tear, not because it was tampered with, not because it was vandalized. Because life safety keeps coming on, and that's our biggest thing. Is the first thing is I'll ask customers, can you get out of the door, and then can you secure it for the evening for emergency type instances. But that was one of the biggest things I've always learned coming up is don't be afraid to ask for help. Nobody's going to fault you in continuing your education. And being with the Locksmith Association, you get that brethren of guys that have been in the trade longer than you've been doing it. So you can pick up your phone and say, hey, do you know how to fix this door closer or this exit device is working right? And they'll be like, oh, send me a picture. I don't know how things operated 20, 30 years ago before cell phones and camera phones and all that. But if it just took twice as long, maybe stuff didn't break as much, I don't know. But I know it's definitely thing, and like John also said, document everything. Not only so you can reflect on it later, but you can also show customers pictures of your work. But then it also kind of the CYA, if a customer ever come back and said, well, you didn't fix something correctly. Or this isn't working. Well, it worked when I left the door. And it was working to its best operational capacity. It's not my fault somebody took a hammer to me. Or somebody I actually had one account where they kept messing with the lock cylinder. So I put in tamper resistant screws on the face of the lock plate, and the calls went away. I was getting a call once a week, keys stopped working. So what I determined was somebody somehow was taking apart the lock cylinder, was messing with the internal components. And once I put in tamper proof screws, and I always get videos to show it's working, and then it covers your phone. So
Being a supplier, even though you may be able to repair a door or repair a lock, it's always best to replace it, and I'll tell you why. Because unless it's $3,000 X device or something that needs a spring, because once you touch that door, you own it. And so it's hard to explain to the customer the difference between the cylinder and the knob. The cylinder on a motorcycle, the cylinder's up there, you rekeyed it, and the knob is down there and it's not working. So you own that. So whenever possible, even though you can do it, it'll be in your best interest to replace it.
and what I like to add is, if I do replace it, I can now give you a warranty.
Right, exactly. Now you can own it and come back.
The only thing I'm gonna own today is what I touched.
But it's hard to explain to a
Oh,
customer,
it is.
what's the difference between this? You touched it.
And that's the first thing, is as soon as you see something else, stop what you're doing, call the customer over and point it right out. I've been on residential doors where the door wood is.
Actually, it's residential.
Okay, or something's marred or it's painted over, I say, I need you to observe a lot. In case damage happens, because the last thing you want to do is have to repaint an entire door or replace something.
Well, now with cameras too, I mean, you got a whole lot of insurance with the camera, because you're gonna take a picture before you start. It's, try to explain it out, but it's, when there was no pictures.
Cameras are definitely the way. Some people know I now wear a body camera on all emergency calls. I've had a couple of close calls. I'm very picky and choosy about the emergencies I do. Just because they can get a little sticky, especially in domestic situations. I had a woman threaten me one night because I wasn't fixing her door fast enough. Yeah. And I walked away from her. And so it's another thing I would have learned, that had I had it there, it would have been a different outcome. I still love what I do. It gets a little hairy, it gets a little sticky, and I do get dirty today.
I'll share a story when you said you broke the glass. I mean, Ted said, that he broke a pane of glass, or, from a sliding door, just a full door. Mine, when I did my breaking the glass door, and all of a sudden, I was putting what they used to call these Charlie bars. They used to be these bars that would go down, so the door doesn't slide. The inactive door, it goes on the inactive door, so the active door doesn't slide by. Anyways, broke the glass, and all of a sudden you hear the pop, and it's cracking for about 20 minutes, and you're sitting there looking at it going, what are you doing? Anyways, after it got repaired, so went in, got repaired. This person's house won actually a Nobel Prize, and they were being interviewed on 60 Minutes like 2 weeks later, and I'm looking, I go, I just broke that door. Just looks like, 60 minutes, I'm seeing the guys sitting there. I was in that. Yeah, it was just pretty funny.
Wow.
So, these are the fun, and anybody that's been in the field and done it, there's a lot of war stories that are just fun,
It's not fun at the time.
Right, no, when you think back at it, like you just sit there and you're like, oh, what am I doing here now?
My feeling was gonna happen is, what am I doing?
Right. Mine was like, it
Why
was
am I
broken.
doing this?
No, mine was like, it was broken when I got here.
This is all great advice, and I appreciate everybody sharing your stories. We're a little bit over the top of this hour, but if everybody's cool with it, I'd love to give people in the audience, if anybody has any questions.
Just a quick question. First, I want to say, I really appreciate seeing the diversity across the industry and so forth, so thank you for coming. So my question is, and you all mentioned the challenge that you all have is getting people involved, getting more people, getting staff important. And so my question is, for each of you, what has each of your business done to attract more women into the industry? Because obviously you're all guys, that's only half of the population. You could double your people if you attract more women. So what has each business done to attract more women?
We're open to it. We don't have any restriction at all. In
Right.
fact, we've had a woman recently working in our key shop that now has moved on to the sales department, so. Yeah, if you're a woman that graduates from North Bennett Street School, give us your resume.
Excellent.
Right, so, yes, for us, typically they do not apply, women don't apply, but we've had a lot of successful, we have our best story, and it's unfortunately, it broke the mold, but we hired, this woman to answer the phones, and all of a sudden we started giving her order entry, and then next thing you know, I mean, she's killing it, now she's on our chat. The problem is, we said, let's grow, because, I mean, forget about me and old woman, we want to grow people through the company, and we go, okay, you got a receptionist, let's go bring them through the system. But we've had more, we haven't had a lot of hits going upward, and again, men or women. But that was one of our successes. We actually, SECLOCK employs a lot of.
Thanks.
So I had a couple, pre-pandemic, I've been fortunate enough to expand the company a little bit. And when I was interviewing folks, the only thing that really matters is being willing to learn, being willing to show up when you learn, being willing to take criticism. Full stop. It doesn't matter what sex, gender, nationality you are, just show up and do the work. There's enough work for everybody, that's it.
Yeah, I know I keep jumping back to the association, but in the association, we probably have about 7 members out of everybody. And it's a little discouraging in that end of it, but I don't know what the rate is. I don't think any of us would ever turn down equal applicant. As John said, if you're willing to come in and do the work and take constructive criticism to advance your career, then we'd be all for it. I don't know why it's one way or the other. But yeah, definitely, it's not one way or the other for gender wise, but I think it's getting more females involved in being a locksmith.
To come back to this question also, what are people doing? In the beginning here, one of the things that Eddy said is that we want to change the narrative here, okay? Now there's a lot of avenues that we can pick, a lot of topics. North Bennett Street School is really well positioned to be able to kind of change several narratives about the industries that we train for. There are a whole range of things that we have the ability to do in order to impact the industry, in order to change culture in so many ways. One of the things that I'll say, and this is about all the industries that we serve, we can look at the locksmithing industry for what it is, and what it's been, what it can be. Back in 2013, the admissions team made the decision to add a third choice to gender on the application. A seemingly very simple thing to do, but the impact there is far-reaching. So one of the things that I want to say is, and this has come up a few times here in this conversation, there's a human quality. There's this human kind of, maybe there's a need for us to be useful, to feel useful. There's a number of us that, as described by so many of the things that people are attracted to, making things, preparing things, keeping people safe. My experience from working in admissions is that the attraction to this transcends all demographics. I believe this to be true based on my experience. At the same time, there is another truth, which is that access to these industries arrives with many barriers, personally, culturally, for any demographic. And so the work there is in some ways in the before, in the recruitment, in the building and educating people about many of the things that we train for, which essentially are micro industries. trades, right? These are specialized trades. And then the other part is the industry itself, which we can have some impact on, yet it's the industry. And to a person, what I heard here is that they're just interested in skilled labor, that if somebody wants to do this. So these kind of gaps and challenges are also the opportunities. So anyway, I ran away with it, but I appreciate the question.
Excellent answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I want to say thank you to all of you who came in person. I want to thank you, everyone who is virtually attending. And I want to thank Barbara for filming. I want to thank Eddy for being a great partner here. And I want to thank all the panelists here for coming today and sharing what your experience is. I'm so grateful for this, and I'm really looking forward to leveraging this to changing the narrative and finding more people for all of you. So a round of applause. Let's go check out the locksmith shop.